Hey guys, welcome to Chief Concerns. I'm with my partner in crime here. It's just going to be me and Jason Dunn locking down the show tonight. Eric's off, having a good time. I think he's playing golf somewhere.
Golf, yeah, doing a little golf tournament or something like that, man. Hopefully he wins. So, if you don't win, I'm gonna be a little upset. Like, man, look, you did all that traveling, going out there for that tournament, and then come out a loser. At least, come in second, have some type of consolation prize or whatever. So yeah.
Eric's, based on what he's telling us on the show, he's getting good. I mean, he said, what was it? What was his? You asked. I don't really know golf terminology, but you guys talked about was his handicap last week?
His handicap, yeah. So right. I think he said it was. I don't know if it's not in single digits yet. I think he said maybe 10.
Right.
So, but he's getting there. So that which is pretty good. As far as golfers kind of go. So if you're almost getting to the point where you're almost a scratch golfer. Then you're really talking. So he's getting better. But I heard he's had a great game. So I mean, he spends a lot of time out there, man. So he should be getting pretty good at it.
Yeah, for sure. He's always on the golf course. Every time you text him or call him, he's either coming back from the golf course, he's heading to the golf course. So
and I know it. I need to go out. I just talked to my son yesterday, and I was telling him I need to get out here and get out on the clubs, man. Start swinging the sticks a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But that's a great pastime to do. Being outdoors and just moving around. So there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Sure.
Love golf. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. No doubt. My version of that would be either going mini golfing, which I haven't gone mini golfing in such a long time. That was for me back in the day, or not back in the day, but a couple of years before I've had a steady girlfriend. It was going to play mini golf, and that was my date spot was mini golf. Talk, play some golf, and then also Top Golf, which is I think that's fun. You can do that, with your friends and whatnot. It's a fun thing. Do you guys have Top Golf where you're at?
We have a Top Golf in Cincinnati. It's like right outside of Cincinnati, so it's about an hour 30 minutes away. So it's a ways away, but yeah.
If you're gonna make a weekend out of that, that's definitely something to do in Cincy.
Oh, definitely.
Get some chili. That's the thing in Cincy, right?
Chili is one thing in Cincinnati, man. But I don't really eat. To be honest with you, I don't really eat a whole lot of other people's chili. I actually, I'll tell you, so I judged a chili contest at the beginning of last year is when I judged a chili contest, and I had so much fun trying the chili. But then I started realizing like everybody's chili wasn't really the same. I was like, okay, like this is, but there was some great chili out there. Don't get me wrong, some great chili out there, man. But yeah, chili is just one of them things that, I got to know kind of who's cooking it, know if they're a good cook. I'm just not going to try every chili, man. You can't do that. Yeah. Be careful. It's just one of them foods you got to be careful with.
Right. Well, my friend, he refuses to eat anybody else's cornbread. So he grew up, his mom used to make cornbread for him all the time. And so she since passed away, but he said even before she passed away, he said he could not eat cornbread. He couldn't eat other people's cornbread, only his mom's. And that was it. Respectfully, when they would come over to my house for dinner, my mom would be like, I understand, Marcus, you're and his name was Marcus also, but she's, I understand, Marcus, your mom's cornbread's amazing. So I get it.
Right.
But so kind of a slow week. I mean, obviously every week there's always Chiefs rumors going around where Chiefs are looking at this guy. But this week it's kind of lax. Like it's a Masters week, baseball opening week. I think everyone's kind of settled in right now doing the other things in springtime. But our first concern tonight comes from a report from James Palmer from NFL Network, who said he had talked to Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes is spending his offseason studying and looking for ways to be more efficient and not looking for the big play every time. Also, he wants to work towards continuing to evolve the offense, which is music to my ears, because there's so many times where, Patrick either takes a sack and, look for the big play, and that's kind of what our offense has been, at being a big play offense. But how do you feel about Pat's offseason approach, and how do you think we can evolve the offense?
You know what? That's somebody who's a pro. That's his approach of just going in and how do you become better. So as good as he is of a passer, he also wants to become a much better player. So he wants to be a much smarter guy, making better decisions and choices in some of the things that he's doing. So that's a great approach. I think that I don't care who you are. I always talk about like that's the biggest room in the room, right? Is the room for improvement. So he can always get better. And I think what he's looking at is some of the opportunity, and what can end up happening is you could get so comfortable in what you're doing, and with some of your success that you get so comfortable in it that you don't change anything up. And so you start believing that you can make every throw, right? You just start believing that now we don't have to run the football. I think like last year, because of his talent and because of talent around him, they were able to get away with a lot of different things. And so what ends up happening, you start seeing coaches start to adjust to what you do, right? And so it takes just sometimes for defensive coordinators just to study what you do best and say, let's attack that. And so what they end up doing, and I'll just go back to the Super Bowl, uh, Tampa Bay Buccaneers did that. They looked at, okay, what is their strength? So let's take away their strength, what they can do. So we're not going to let them get beat as deep. So now I'm thinking he's at least exploring how do you get more of the mid-range, shorter passes, and just kind of moving the chains down the field as far as looking for chunks, right? I mean, it's great to try to score a touchdown every single play, but we just know that's just not possible. And so what you end up trying to do is, okay, well, let's add a little bit more to our game. And so I'm sure that when he's doing more of just studying the film, he's looking at how defenses are actually playing him. He's looking at how defenses are disrupting his receivers. So I think this bodes well for him and Kansas City's offense because he's going to get everybody else on the same page. So also too, what he'll do is he'll take some of his knowledge and he'll go and he'll correlate it with, Kelsey and, Hill and Robinson, all those guys is coming back. Sharp, I think it's going to be a good addition to the game. And just letting them know, like, look, this guy did this to you on this play. Hey, how about we do it like this? And sometimes it's just that camaraderie you have to have with guys, that chemistry you have to have with certain guys, as far as like, what are they thinking? How do you play? If they do this, let's do that, and try to get open. So that, without a doubt, is going to improve his game, but also too, ultimately, it's going to just improve the entire offense of Kansas City. And as scary as that is, I mean, you got to really think like now, if you get what you need as far as pass protection, I mean, you're going to be really dangerous. And so we were thinking about 30 points a game, last year. Well, look, trying to, supersede that with more points, but also too, what you want to at least try to do is you want to strategically wear the defense down. You know what I mean? So maybe you hold the ball more in your hand than you did before. That's probably part of the problem, right? Because you score so many points so fast. Now, I'll tell you what, let's manage what we do, score, give our defense a little bit of rest, what we need to, do for them. But it is without a doubt going to improve, the total offense.
Yeah, and you look at the two games. Yeah, we lost the San Diego, the Week 17 game. That doesn't really matter. And LA Chargers. Sorry, we had a couple comments on YouTube last week. I think Eric had said St. Louis Rams, but we're old school guys here. We say St. Louis, we say San Diego, but the Raiders game and the Super Bowl. They stopped when the Raiders clamped up and stopped the big plays. That's when they made that comeback, and that's when our offense couldn't do anything. And the same thing in the Super Bowl. Yes, we had offensive line issues, but they stopped the big play, and we really couldn't do anything. And it's what you guys always said all season long: establish the run, take what the defense is giving you instead of holding the ball and do it, try to look for the long shot. And that's something that you guys you played in the NFL for so long. You knew that realistically that's what Patrick was going to have to do. As you get older, as you become that veteran, you have to take what the defense gives you. And he's got away with doing it. MVP, and then last year, he was in the race. He was in the conversation until the end of the season as far as being MVP. So, it's not that he's been doing anything wrong. It's just now he's becoming mature enough where it's like, we have to do this, to take us to the next level. So we can be a big play and be, kind of, moving the ball downfield kind of offense, right?
Of course. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's the same thing that every, great player had to do to adapt. It's the same thing I'm sure Jordan had to do every single year. Just going in and start working, studying film. Kobe Bryant, same thing. Tiger Woods, Wayne Gretzky. I'm sure everybody was sitting there thinking like, look, I could probably add on to my game to help, the entire team out. And so if I just stay right here in my little bubble and don't try to improve myself, then what am I actually doing? How am I improving myself and how I'm improving the chances of the team? So I know it's to him, that's what he's actually looking for. And I've seen guys like that. I mean, every single year, the great guys, the greats come out and trying to improve on their game. You know, they're just never satisfied. And that's a great place to be, because then you don't become content in just, you know, your success, right? And so it's good to hear him say that, like, look, I could get better every single year. Matter of fact, I'm just going to get everybody else around me better. By me getting better, I get everybody else around me better also. And also I can help them in their game as well. So that's good. That's a great place to be as a leader, you know. So, you know, hats off to him, man. He's just doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. And I know he took a picture for Easter with his kid. He had a boot on. And today there was new pictures that came out because I think he's at Augusta for the Masters. No boot. So he's trending in the right direction for all those people who were scared about the boot when they saw it on Easter.
Plenty of time before here in the season, man. Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Okay, so our next concern, not really Chief related, but just in general, you know, kind of hot topics of what's been going on the last 2 weeks. So ESPN's Dan Orlovsky, and former Detroit Lion quarterback and UConn quarterback, came under fire last week when he went on the Pat McAfee show and talked about Justin Fields, saying there's questions with his work ethic and all that stuff, right? And a lot of people said, what's the basis of that? You know, who are the people you talk to? Because, you know, his head coach, Ryan, what's his name? Coach Dave from Ohio State came out and said it's not true at all. I don't know where you heard that. Then the next day, Orlovsky goes on Twitter or Instagram, and he makes a statement saying, oh, yeah, well, you know, after I said that, I took a step back and looked and contacted coaches who know Justin Fields, and they said he doesn't have there's no concerns. He's the hardest working guy. And he said a lot of stuff. You know, he was the last guy in and first one to leave. Stuff like that. It's like, where are you hearing that? Yeah. Now, this begs the question, you know, we hear things all the time, right? And I'm not going to bring up the race. I'm not going to bring up the race card, but you look at things like Coach Bieniemy. You know, people say he's a bad interviewer. It's like, where's that coming from? You know, we're hearing guys talking about eating ankles and getting head coaching jobs, but Coach Bieniemy doesn't. And then you hear for years, you know, Vince Young, for example, you know, he scored bad in his links test. He doesn't have the mental capacity to be a quarterback. You know, stuff like that, where, you know, I'm not saying it's a race car, but like when you add all these things up, you never really hear these kinds of things when it comes to white quarterback. Yes, we heard with Baker a little bit about how he had some concerns about, you know, how he was a locker room guy and all that stuff. And then, you know, that was probably the one guy I've heard in the last few years. And Menzel had off the field issues, nothing about his character on the field. But what do you think about this situation? And do you have any personal experience with this kind of like these concerns that come out of nowhere, you know, without these guys, these analysts who haven't done their due diligence?
Yeah, I tell you what, man, I think Dan, man, was completely irresponsible. And one of the things I absolutely despise, and I just absolutely hate it, is when somebody says something and you never cite your source. You never say, well, this person told me that, right? Carry a name to who told you these things, as opposed to they say this and they say that, where that person might not be a reputable guy getting information from. So, you know, Dan should be a little bit more responsible what he's doing, what he's saying, you know, and it's unfortunate because, you know, as you were saying before, you know, when you're using these negative words and negative character, it's basically assassination of somebody's character is really what you're doing, unknowingly or maybe knowingly sometimes. And so you see this just throughout history. That has been done. You know, it used to be one of those the negative things, tropes and connotations to black quarterbacks. Oh, he's not intelligent enough. He's not smart enough. Well, he doesn't have a throwing range. He can never stay in the pocket. Well, there's other things this guy can do, not to mean he's not intelligent to do them. It's like nobody gave him a chance. And so you just discounted entire swathe of people because of, you know, your bias that you may have, you know, and this is what it is. It's implicit bias that guys are sitting over here and they're talking about these things that everybody has, that you don't realize the damage that you're doing by saying these things. And so I think Kirk Herbstreit, I know he did a good job kind of correcting Dan. Dan tried to walk it back, but you know what, already it's too late, you know, because you're being the talking head going on these shows and saying this and all of that. Well, sure, what if somebody said that Justin Fields might have did something even worse than that, right? Well, if you come on the show, well, I heard Justin Fields did this. And that'd just be completely irresponsible, especially if you don't even know who the guy is and you haven't really did any homework. And so now all of a sudden the head coach, I think coordinator, came to Dan and was like, hey man, look, he works hard. He's always in here. His personal trainer's like, man, he works hard. He stays in the weight room all the time. He's constantly, studying film. So now all of a sudden Dan has taken this information from wherever he got it from and put it out here to cast a doubt in guys' minds. This is changing people's lives. This is what this is doing. And so that is completely irresponsible. And on a personal point, I went through this when I got drafted. And so I came out projected to be a first round pick. Well, when I talked to Mel Kiper, we had a great conversation talking about, look, Jason, you're supposed to be one of the first tight ends taken, not one or two. He's like, how do you think? And so we had a great conversation about all these different things. And so when it came down to it, Philly calls me in my first round. Hey, Jason, we're ready to take you. I think Minnesota called me too. And then finally, Philly picks Jermaine Maryberry first round. And I was crushed. And so you'll see a segment, I think the one that you sent me, that Mel Kiper says on there, well, there was a question about his work ethic and, if he's going to do the things necessary during the off season. And I was sitting over and and I was just absolutely blindsided with somebody saying something like that about me. And I told you, look, man, I was raised on a farm. All I knew was hard work. And so it was just so disappointing to me that Mel Kiper would say something like this without even citing his source or just make that up. And it was crazy because once I got drafted, he's like, well, all those concerns are out the window. What? Wait a minute, hold on. You just said in one breath that there was a question about it. As soon as I get drafted, the question, now it's gone. It's released.
This year, more than usual, it's a pretty deep draft in the first 2 rounds for tight ends. Usually you have 1 or 2 players, and then that's it. But Mel, I mean, we had all these guys going through the second round, didn't we?
Well, we had a strong year last year, too, Chris. You remember, a lot of those tight ends contributed heavily, and a lot of teams filled voids at tight end. And of course, and you also have some veteran tight ends available in trades. Troy Drayton's name's been mentioned, as well as Johnny Mitchell. But certainly Jason Dunn, McWilliams, and Battaglia has already been selected. We're your top group.
All right, let's go up and see what Philadelphia has decided. Let's go up to the podium. Gene Washington, the voice of the second round.
Philadelphia has selected Jason Dunn.
There it is.
Tight end, Eastern Kentucky.
Well, I would tell you 2 things. They have selected a player that some had going late first, and any deal for Johnny Mitchell is now done.
That's right.
With the selection of Jason Dunn.
This kid played every position imaginable coming through the high school ranks. And, of course, at Eastern Kentucky, didn't catch a lot of passes. Watch him when his tight end reversed. You see, this is a kid that's 260 pounds. He can run. He ran a 4.51 during an individual workout. Tremendous strength. Did 34 reps during a workout. Look at this ability, Joe. This is a kid 260 pounds. So I tell you, he can motor. He's just not a big, slow tight end who can't get off the ball and, of course, can't get downfield. And as far as blocking, that's where he needs to become a little bit more consistent. I think the work ethic is what people consider. Here he played some defensive end this year, had a couple sacks, a couple hurries, but I think that's why Jason Dunn is still here. People didn't feel he was a worker, that he would get in and do the kind of things on the practice field and in the off season to prepare and try to maximize all that great physical talent that he possesses.
I think the physical side of it is really what impresses me. To be able to play defensive end and swing over there and do the things that you need to do on that side of the football, as well as be a tight end. He is a total package. His upside potential is absolutely incredible. Gruden's got to be thrilled. He would have liked to have maybe had the veteran in Mitchell, but now he brings in a young kid who can do a lot for his offense. Bigger and probably a better blocker than Johnny Mitchell would have been as well.
And the concern's really over, too, now. It's not the first round. We're late second round now. There's no concern. You don't worry about that. Now you're getting a great physical talent. Yes. If he doesn't develop like you hope, you haven't wasted a first-round pick and a lot of money.
That to me, you're dealing with people's lives here. And from first round to second round was about $1 million difference. And for somebody to use something negative, and for Mel Kiper to get up there and say something like that is dealing with my future, it is absolutely insane. And I think, Dan doing that for Justin Fields, for whatever reason, like I said before, is completely irresponsible. I'm glad Kirk Herbstreit said something to him, and other people came up. It's like, look, man, Bucky Brooks was another guy who's like, look, you don't realize like the historical ramifications of what you've been saying and how it's been played out just throughout history. That sometimes people use negative words to describe, African-American quarterbacks as opposed to white quarterbacks. white quarterbacks, they might say, oh, he's intelligent, he's smart, he's a hard worker, hard effort guy. Black dude, it's all about his talent. Oh, well, he's a good runner, he's a do it. But it's never about your, mental acuity. It's never about that. So it's so disappointing that these things still go on, that people still have these implicit biases that they don't realize that they got. What they need to do is start watching their mouth even more and start delving in deep about some of these things that need to be let go, things that you need to explore about the things that you say and how we feel about. Like I said before, it don't matter if it's color, if it's your gender, it doesn't matter what it is, ageism, whatever it may be. You got to be very careful about the things that you say. And I'm not saying this is something that, being, this is, what is the word that they use all the time? Like, not the cancel culture, but saying it in a way that is not so hurtful. But also, too, you need to understand that you need to be held accountable for the words that you do say. We all do. And so I want to just make sure that, he understands it. I think he does now. But for somebody to say that, regardless of whatever, and we say this is in every field, right? Whatever job that you work, it could be a relationship, whatever it may be. You got to be, very cognizant of what you say and who you're saying it to, that you won't affect that person's life going forward, and you're doing a disservice by doing those things like that. That's just, to me, that's just dirty gossip is what it is. And it goes back to the same thing with Bieniemy by saying he's not a great interviewer. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. Eric Bieniemy is without a doubt a head coach, but somehow he's not getting it because he's a bad interviewer. But somebody else is, like you said, talking bite ankles and, I'm a gnaw him, and we go, what? What are you talking about? So it's unfortunate, man. There's a lot of things that need to change. We got to get better at. And sometimes part of that is just a conversation to let people know where they messed up. So Dan, you know what? You messed up, buddy. You messed up. Be held accountable for your words. And I learned this one thing, and it's very important. I tell the kids this all the time. Never put on a coat that you're unwilling to wear. Meaning, don't let people define who you are based off of what somebody else says or who they want you to be. Never do that, all right? If that's not your coat, don't put it on. So every time somebody was trying to throw a coat on these guys and stuff like that, man, look, you shed that. Don't put that coat on.
And it's funny that you say the aspect of when they do, it's crazy to me because when you've been on TV for so long, you get to know the stuff you say, right? It feels like you're repetitive, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like when a couple of buddies of mine, they're white guys. They do a drinking game every time there's a draft, and whenever a white guy is drafted, they drink whenever they hear sneaky athletic, high IQ guy, and he's a hard worker and he's got a hell of a motor. Whenever they hear those, whenever a white guy is drafted, that's when they drink. And you think at this point, Mel Kiper's been doing this for like 30, 40 years now. Yeah. You think, dude, you say the same thing about the same kind of guy every time. What does that say to you? And then when it comes to, I've never, and I'm not saying like, I know it's 100% fact, but it's very seldom that I hear a high IQ guy when it comes to an African-American quarterback versus an African-American player. And I'm not saying that Mel Kiper's racist or anything, but we're fans and we watch these things. That never stands out to us. Because if you hear, they're like, oh, okay, they do say it about, the black guy, the white guy. But you don't hear that. You hear a high IQ guy when it comes to a white guy who may not be the most athletic guy. So they to make up for his athleticism, he's a high IQ guy. So
we're going to attribute this to him as far as, and here's the thing. And the reality is, because nobody's ever really taking Mel Kiper to task, they never challenged him on the things that he says. And that's part of the problem, because what you end up becoming is you become complicit to what this guy is doing with all his negativity and what he's saying, that you just, okay, well, this is just Mel Kiper, it goes along with it. I don't agree with that. So when somebody say, hey, Mel, look, listen, you just said this about 4 or 5 other guys, white guys, he's IQ, he's high motor, he can't be athletic, like Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson can't be high IQ like, I don't know, Carson Palmer. I don't know who he is, Carson Wentz, right? And so, we got to challenge what you say. So you got to be held accountable for the things that you say, what comes out of your mouth. If you're using these things to describe, black quarterbacks or black DBs or whatever it is, and you're always using all the positive attributes for a white quarterback, then somebody needs to sit your butt down and say, Mel, look at this, right? You believe all the guys that you sit there and said have high IQ or high IQ guys? You think all the black quarterbacks you said, they have all these negative things to them? Like, you need to sit down and actually think about this. But nobody's ever approached him that way. I'm sure they haven't.
Well, for a figure like that, a guy's been, working in this industry for so long, he's the draft guru. But I will say this, it's not even so much that he's speaking negatively about African-American quarterbacks. It's the fact that it's what you don't say more so than saying negative things, right? Yes, Lamar Jackson was athletic, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that Lamar Jackson was not a high IQ guy.
Or hard working, right? Yeah.
Hard worker. I mean, it's for Mel Kiper when it comes to, and the thing is, we're not saying that, Mel is treating black quarterbacks to white quarterbacks differently.
Right.
What we're saying that be careful with your words is essentially what the whole sentiment's about. But it's what you don't say that speaks louder. It's the fact that my white friends are playing a drinking game when it comes to white guys getting drafted versus, when an African-American guy's getting drafted. It's the fact that high IQ guy, drink, because of course that's what they're going to say during when a white guy's drafted, right? And some of these guys,
I'm waiting to hear brilliant, right? Where's brilliant? Where's brilliant at? I ain't heard brilliant yet. I ain't heard this about, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Justin Fields. Okay, what about, his IQ of understanding defenses? I ain't heard it yet, right? Just waiting for it. Politically correct is what I was looking for. Politically correct. That's the words I use. PC. Shit. I know I couldn't come to me.
And that's the thing, if our viewers are watching this, we're not canceling Mel Kiper. We're really just talking about these guys being mindful of their words, and that's really what it is. We're not saying, and again, we're not saying that Mel Kiper is going after African-American quarterbacks. It's kind of what we're saying is it's one of those things that when you've been doing for so long and you just don't even know what you're saying anymore. Where it's like when you're saying the white guy is sneaky athletic, which is an insult to white guys. Sneaky athletic. What?
Right. Oh, sneaky athletic. Like white guys are not athletic at all. Like they can't be athletic. Like, oh my gosh, he's such an anomaly. He's athletic. What?
Yep.
It's like, I don't know, man. It's like I said, man. It's disheartening to hear people still speak like this.
Yep.
And Dan or whatever, Orlovsky. But he's another guy in position who got a job and he's sitting there talking. And I'm glad Kirk Herbstreit took him to task. And Bucky Brooks, everybody jumped on his back because they should have.
Oh, yeah. And that's precisely why he went on to clarify what he said. And if he didn't mean anything by it, that's fine. But you still said something that really you didn't do your due diligence behind. And if anybody goes, if anyone goes on a news segment or whatnot, it's saying, fake news or misinformation, they're going to get called out for it. In this case, in the sport world, this is misinformation. And if, but
all these guys are talking. That's the thing about it. Mm-hmm. So just like the scouts are going out here, hearing all this stuff, they're going to overturn every single rock. And a guy like Dan comes in, they were like, well, where Dan Harris from, right? Where did he get this information from? We want to find out who that guy is, So.
And that's the thing. And when I worked in news, it's just because someone says it does not mean it's true, and does not mean you're going to go to TV to say that. You have to confirm it, right. And that's the thing. Have you heard from multiple other sources who have worked with Fields? Sure, say whatever you say. Last guy in, first one out. Sure, say if it's multiple guys. But the fact that you even question what you said so badly because Herbstreit dogged you, all these guys dogged you, that you then went to talk to coaches at Ohio State. And who the hell did you talk to in the first place?
Who'd you talk to? Right. Who'd you talk to?
Yeah.
And see, that's what I'm talking about, man. It's my cite your source. Shit. Hell, say it was Jason Dunn that told you that. And then how does Jason Dunn know Justin Fields, right?
Yeah.
It could have been an ex-girlfriend that said some shit like that. He don't work hard. He didn't say it. You don't know.
Yeah, it could have been a Twitter commenter.
Right.
Well, it also goes to play into the fact that, when we hear about smoke screens are these guys who, whether it's unfounded or not, they throw Dan Orlovsky, and I'm not giving him an excuse here. I'm just saying it's the sad part of what the business is, right? And the business is messing with these young kids' value, even if it means tainting their character by saying, there's character. I'm hearing there's character concerns about this guy. Tell Orlovsky that he's going to go on a show. He goes out there and says, yeah, well, I'm hearing that he's got character concerns. these guys aren't doing their due diligence. That's just information they were fed. They're saying it out there. What happens? Field stock possibly drops, and then that team that may have leaked in the first place, they may get him at number 8 or number 9. You know, just that's a sad part about what goes on when they say smoke screen. That means these kids, you know, their character gets like put out there into the fire, or you know that they lose money. That's the sad part behind this part of the draft, and the smoke screen stuff that goes out.
And the thing is, that's all walks of life. That's all walks of life. Whatever job you go into, whatever it is that you, even a relationship, whatever, all walks of life. Like you got to make sure, that you're doing your due diligence to get all the information you can, as opposed to like, hey, this person's saying this. So I just think it was completely irresponsible on his part, and so he should have known better. I know he tried to walk it back, but damage already been done, right? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing when you see these a lot of these like talking heads, the second it goes on Twitter and they get called out for like, oh, I didn't mean that, I apologize, I didn't mean that, but you already put it out there.
Yeah, I think we we should all do that. We should all watch what we say. You know what I mean? Seriously,
Sure.
we have to. So, yeah.
All right, so we're going to go to our final question before we head to the Chiefs Kingdom Concerns, and so on a lighter note, I that's the thing. I think we talk about Chiefs topics, but we also, the bigger picture here. We get to hear from an NFL player who's been through it. You can take a topic like we heard with the Orlovsky segment and apply it to you, because that stuff happens no matter how old. The players from the 80s to now, 70s to now, that stuff happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But so this is kind of funny. So Chiefs last year, they proposed a rule change, and it didn't really get any feet. It was the fourth and doing a 4th and long instead of an onside kick, to option for that. But this year, the Chiefs have proposed a new rule, which is probably going to pass, is what I've read, and that is the Chiefs are going to propose that running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, linebackers, and defensive backs would now be allowed to wear numbers 1 through 49. Reggie Bush option for this when he came out of college, and I'm sure guys through the years have done this, but Reggie Bush was the number 5. Everyone wanted him to wear number 5 when he came out. They didn't give it to him, of course, but they're saying it's going to pass. Now, what are your thoughts on this? It's a fun one. NFL's finally adapting some college rules in a way. Now, what are your thoughts on this, A? And then B, what number would you have worn if this rule passed when you were playing?
Wow, okay, it's pretty good. So I think, I like the rule. I do. I like it, just for the simple fact that, some of these guys had the same number from Little League all the way up. And you're always you try to get to, when they're giving out the equipment, hey, I want number 5. Hey, I want this number. I want this number. So you carry it all the way through, from, Pee-wee to middle school to high school to college sometimes. And so when you're used to a number, then finally it gets to say, nope, you only got these numbers. It's like, oh, come on, man. And so you try to get at least close to it. So I guess Reggie got 25 instead of 5. But I do. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Now, my favorite number was 33. And my brothers, they wore it in high school. And so it was almost natural to me for me to get it, because I was like, my brother had it. I want to wear 33 too. And so when it kind of got up there, I wore 33 in basketball, football for a little time. And then when I got to college, I became 96. And I love the number 96. I just loved it. Just looked good on me. And so I was kind of used to it. Now, as far as, tight ends and stuff in the 80s, yeah, it's fine. 40s, 49s and stuff is usually, 40s on up, because H-back, fullback, all, that area. I think it's good. As long as you don't get something that's ugly, like real ugly, I don't know. It'd be kind of hard to see a tight end, I guess, maybe with like a 1 on or a 2. You know what I mean? So, what number would I have worn? If I don't know, man. I like my numbers. I like the numbers I wore. So 96 was close to 89, and I had 87 in Philadelphia. So I didn't mind them at all. So.
Yeah, I think I guess, just me growing up and stuff, and in this era where I saw you at number 89, I couldn't imagine you at any other number, just because Tony was 88, you were 89. So in my head, imagine Jason Dunn and anything but 89 is weird to me. Even when I saw your college highlights, when I saw the number 96, I'm like, what? No. And for those of you who didn't know, Jason played defensive end and tight end. So 96, perfect number for a DM.
Right.
But yeah, I guess, and this kind of ties to what we talk about tight ends nowadays. They're pretty much receivers now. So, I mean, essentially it doesn't look that weird seeing a tight end who's pretty much flexed out at a slot or an X even nowadays, to be wearing a number 18 or 17 or whatever number they want to wear. It's it. Yeah. So but for me, I could not imagine anything else but number 89.
Yeah, no, I don't even think I would have wanted like wide receivers number like out there like that. If I'm a wide receiver, I'm like, look, I'm not expecting to do any type of blocking. If I am, it's going to be a DB. Maybe a linebacker here or there, but yeah, but in your teens number, yeah, you trying to catch the football.
It's just funny that it's a new age. I think like when I was like my high school, my brother was talking about, because we were talking about the rule, and he was like, "Oh, it's great." The new age, that the young bucks, that they don't want to wear in the 80s anymore. The 80s is like it's a big tight end number. It's a lineman or D lineman. It's not a receiver. They're all wearing teens and single digits now in the high school, and in college they've been doing it forever. But like when I was in high school, I wore 32 because I was a receiver / running back, and also my mom was a big Marcus Allen fan, so.
Okay.
So there's a theory in my household that I was kind of named after Marcus Allen.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah.
So the 32 stuck, and he was a chief. He was a chief, but 32 was a solid number to go. Running back and receiver, I could be flexed out and come back in. But being a receiver is like you're in the 80s. You think of Jerry Rice, you think of Tim Brown, you think of it's in our era was you had Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. And Eddie Kennison was 87. You were 89. Gonzalez was 88. So like, that's what I think of receivers. I think of that. So maybe it's just a generational thing that the younger people are going to be seeing the receivers in the teens now. So, and now the next generation will be seeing the receivers in the single digits. So it's going to be kind of weird to see, but we'll get used to it.
Get used to it. Yeah. Just like anything, we'll get used to it. Yeah.
All right, now for our final segment tonight before we end the show. And of course, it's everyone's favorite segment. It's our Chiefs Kingdom Concerns segment. And tonight, we're actually going to hear from a member who's been a big fan of ours since the get-go, from one of our first episodes. Based on his email that he sent me, his name is Mr. Kenny Watson. And I always wanted to do that. Watson. But he's been dying to come on the show. He gave us his email on YouTube. He's a huge fan of you guys, and based on his comments, he's a lifelong Chiefs fan. So we're gonna get him on the show right now. So Kenny, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. So where are you from, and how long have you been a Chiefs fan?
Oh man, from Virginia, born and raised in the Tidewater area, hotbed of football talent. Percy Harvin, Michael Vick, Plaxico Bears, even the guy on our team now, what's the guy play on the defensive line? I can't think of his name. Big guy, 90-something. He's from Virginia.
Yeah,
I can't think of his name. Yeah, he's from that area too. So yeah, it's called the 757 Virginia Beach, called Hampton, Newport News. So I'm from a smaller city called Portsmouth, that sits right in the middle of all those surrounding cities. So that's why I'm from. And yeah, born and raised there, man. So, yeah, been a Chiefs fan. Well, I'm gonna tell you like this. I started watching the Nigerian Nightmare, and by me constantly watching Nigerian Nightmare, I just became a Chiefs fan after that. So I've been rolling with the Mercedes. Rolling with the Mercedes.
That's awesome, man.
Okay. So you've been out there, man, rocking KC for quite some time, then.
Long time, man. It's lonely being a Chiefs fan out there whining that, man. Lonely as long as what, man. But it's all good. I kind of like having my own team, sort of. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, trust me, it's lonely out here.
But everybody's usually what you talking about? Redskins fans?
Redskins, Dallas, and Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's the top three. And you got some 49ers too. But the main ones is Redskins, Dallas, and Pittsburgh.
I got you. Yeah, man, I know exactly where you at, man. Matter of fact, because all that area, like you said, man, it's a hotbed of just talent out there.
Hotbed, man. Yes, sir. Right now, it's a guy that plays for this little substar. He plays for the Dallas Mavericks, man. Dorian Finney-Smith. He's actually from my city. He's from the same city I'm from, Portsmouth.
All right. Yeah, man. There's good talent out there way, man. It's good talent and just good people out there way. You know what I mean? I've been
Absolutely.
out way. How far you from Hampton?
Hampton is about 25 minutes, 20, 25, depending on how the traffic is. Some good traffic, you can get there in 20 minutes.
Okay.
That's Allen Iverson there. That's AI.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome, Kenny. I had no idea you're from Virginia. I'm from North Virginia, so up top near DC.
Okay.
So it's I think you and I we're probably two of maybe five Chief fans in the entire state, maybe.
Hey, look, where I'm from, the only place you're gonna see Chiefs fans is at the sports bar. That's it. You're gonna see them too many other places, man.
And that's probably within the last 3 years since Mahomes has been there. Before that, you ain't
Oh yeah, you're right. Absolutely not. I told you, it's lonely being a Chiefs fan out there where I'm from. It's lonely, but absolutely.
You know, we were talking about golf earlier, man. I come out there and play at Midlothian is where we go play, man. That's where the rest.
That's northern. Okay.
Yeah, that's where they have their little golf tournament. I go and play in that every single year, and I tell you how I got hooked up with it. One of the coaches used to coach out of Kansas City, Vernon Dean. Him and Darryl Green are good friends. So matter of fact, Vern actually was with the Redskins. They won like 3 Super Bowls with them, I think. So they always they stay tight, man. That's how I hooked up with it, man. And I love going up that way, man. Virginia is it's a beautiful, beautiful state, man. People that don't quite know like that area and stuff, I just love just riding all through, man. Virginia, every little part of it, man. The coast, all of that, man, is just beautiful to me.
Oh yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. I agree.
For sure. And so, Kenny, man, what questions do you have for JD regarding the Chiefs?
Okay, my first question would be: we know that when you played tight end, you was more of a physical tight end. I remember watching you play. You was physical. I would consider you to be the finesse tight ends that we see today. So my question would be to you: could you play in today's era as a tight end? You see what I'm saying? The way they play now, because we don't see the physical tight end no more. All we see now is catch and run. You know what I mean? We don't really see the tight end that blocks, put them down to the ground. So that would be my question to you today. Do you think you play this era of football?
I'll tell you what, man, I definitely could. And the reason I say that, when I came out of college, I was probably 240, 247, 250, 252. And I ran a legit 4.47. I'm talking about legit 4.4, 4.5 all day long. And so I remember when I was coming out that my coach was telling me, hey, you gotta gain weight. He was just like, man, you got to block the defensive ends, in the NFL. And at the time, you had guys like Mark Bavario from, the Giants. You know what I'm saying? You had other guys, Keith Jackson, like bigger tight ends at the time who were about 265, 270 that did a lot of blocking. And so during that era that I played, especially when I came in, it was running game. You know what I mean? Your star guys was your running backs. Not saying the guys ain't star running backs down, but you ask the tight end, you got to block a 9 technique out there. You know what I'm saying? Sure, you got to pass block.
That's right.
Look, man, I had to block Reggie White. This is who I had my rookie year. I had Reggie White, I had Charles Mann, I had Kevin Green, I had Bruce Smith, the whole Bills defense. I was lined up, man. I'm talking about every single week. I had a Hall of Famer in front of me, coming out as a rookie, blocking.
Okay.
So it wasn't none of that, and I say pretty boy, but it was none of that line up, 4 yards out and just run routes. Because I had guys, that's why 1,000-yard rushers. Charlie Garner, from down that way, Virginia. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I had Ricky Waters was another guy. Kansas City. I mean, that's what offenses will ask you to do. So it's more like a West Coast offense where you had to block and you had to catch. So guys tight ends wasn't really catching 80, 90 balls a year. Just wasn't doing it, So and the reason I say that, I would love to play in this era because with my speed back then, where I could just line up on the outside and just go against the linebacker in the safety. Oh man, I'm ready to eat now. Shoot. Hey, you telling me I don't have to put my hand in the dirt and block this big
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, sign me up. You know what I'm saying? Sign me up. So, but I say, man, but I love the physical aspect of it, you know, and that was, I took pride in the things that I did as far as blocking, you know, because it was, you know, when I'm just button heads against Michael Strahan, you know, twice a year. I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying? You know, NFC East, that's what I was doing. Charles Mann, you know, guys like that. Charles Haley. I mean, I'm talking about every single week.
And you said Reggie White. That was enough for me right there.
Reggie White, man. Reggie White. I had to tell you this quick story. I always tell people this. So I had Reggie White on Monday Night Football. We go up there, you know, I just always remember just seeing in my head, Reggie White just tossing tackles, you know, with the one arm just throwing him, you know, right? I'm like, oh man. So I get up there and I'm blocking Reggie White. Just blocking him. Don't hear nothing. For about 3 quarters, the man don't say a word to me. Not one word, not a grunt, nothing. I'm just like, man, this man ain't talking, he ain't said nothing to me all game, right? My boy's like, look, man, just wait. So finally, man, I made a block and our running back took off about 50 yards. And I'm walking back, bam, Reggie White passed me on my butt. He was like, hey man, good block. I turned around and was like, hey, thank you, Mr. White. I put my hand up there, called him Mr. White and everything. Man, I came to the sideline, they ripped me for it. I said, man, did you try to just shake Reggie White's hand? I said, man, that's Reggie White.
That's Reggie White. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah. You know, all respect, man. You know, but that, yeah. But yeah, definitely, man. I would have loved to play in this era because then, you know, I was, you know, I just be out there just catching passes. You know, so.
Well, even I will say, just based on there's not being many blocking tight ends in the league anymore, even your skill set, even before when you were with the Chiefs from like 01 to 07, just being a specialist blocking tight end, dude, you could. I think you can play now if you got back in a playing shape. Even at your age, coming in for a third down or second and short, just being a blocking tight end, you could do that nowadays, dude.
Look,
you don't exist anymore.
Hey, I get Clyde Hilaire, I'll get him in the end zone.
Yeah.
You can best believe that. You can run by, hey, look, you get on this back, you can run behind me. I'm gonna open that hole for you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. You was one of the most physical tight ends I've seen in that time.
All time.
Oh yeah.
He blocked you was out the way. He was out the way.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I wouldn't try to take no L's on, you know what I'm saying? When I got in, I wouldn't try to take no L's. He used to call meat hooks.
That's right.
That's right. Jokers, man. That was my calling card. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Now, of the guys that you said you blocked, who was probably the toughest DN that you ever had to block? Was it Reggie White or was it one of the other guys you mentioned?
Man, other guys, I mean, you know, Reggie just in himself, but he was, you know, Reggie was tail end of his career, of course. Mm-hmm. Bruce Smith was still, he wasn't as big as I thought he was, but Bruce was really like thin and fast. He had great hands. I mean, his moves was just, I mean, it was just so, you know, so quick. I was like, wow. And you just had to try to catch up. And he was kind of on his tail end, man. But man, the hardest guy to block at the time, I tell you who was hard was Trevor. I can't think of Trevor. He used to play for Denver. He was tough. He used to line up. Daggone, what's Trevor's last name? Ended up going, I think, to Baltimore. And I'll tell you, there's another one too that used to play for the Cardinals. I can't think his name. He was a tough guy too. I used to hate. He was more like a 3 technique, but they used to move him out there to me. I was like, shoot, this sucker's lined up. Oh man. And I know, man, it was just a headache. You just knew it was a headache every time you hit this joker, you know, because he wouldn't move. There was some guys you just, you just ask the joke, say, hey, man, could you just move a little bit, please? Just move. And I can't think of his name, man. It was the defensive end, Eric with the Cardinals. Daggone.
Was it Trevor Price?
Trevor Price, yeah, for Denver. Now Trevor was a hard dude, man. Yeah, Trevor was because he was another guy that was probably a 3 technique. They moved him out to defensive end. I'm like, man, you know you're a 3 technique. Go on back down there inside it, you know. So it was him and the other guy, Eric. I can't think of Eric's last name, man, from the Cardinals. But that was some tough ones. Some tough ones, man.
You mentioned Bruce Smith. He's from my area too.
Oh, okay. Bruce. Okay, yeah.
Oh.
He's a Hokie.
Yeah. So Bruce, man, Bruce always had it about him, man. Yeah, definitely. But I had some good stories. I had some really good stories. Man, I'm trying to think of the other guy that was opposite Kevin Green. Greg Lloyd. You remember Greg Lloyd? Man.
Physical linebacker.
Yeah. Greg Lloyd, Greg Lloyd was small too. He wasn't really that big. But I remember I'm lining up against him. You know how you go through the cadence, down, set. Well, Greg Lloyd was like an 8th degree black belt. And so you didn't quite, when you hear these things and, the scouting report, like, okay, 8th degree black belt, I know he's going to use some of this. So they go through the cadence, down, set, and I hear Greg Lloyd go, I'm like, oh, shit. He getting into like, that karate. I was like, yeah. I was like, golly. Like, what is he about to throw on me right now? And so, man, it's just funny, man. I got several. 12-year career, man. I blocked some. Yeah. I've seen some really good players, man, in my time. Some really good players,
Okay, do you have another question for JD?
Let's go back. We'll go back to the Super Bowl. All right. I know don't nobody really want to be the Super Bowl again, but since you up there, I might as well ask.
Right.
So, what do you think was the problem as far as us making adjustments? It seemed like the way we played the first half is the same identical way we played the second half. Seems like we didn't make any adjustments. How you feel about it?
I'll tell you what, man, what I see, at least, during the game, was usually teams, when they make an adjustment, if something they're not doing well, they switch it up with the other part of the game, right? So when you're down, if you're a running team, you always go to the pass, right? You try to make an adjustments in the pass. And so it's hard because if you're not really used to doing a particular thing, like, throwing more, mid passes or short passes, then it's hard to like, okay, well, we're going to switch up the whole playbook for this, right? Because now you're thinking about, well, we got to get points. We got to get back in the game. So we can't have the clock play against us, right? Because we still got to move the change. So I think one thing we didn't do, because we didn't run the ball effectively well, it was tough to make an adjustment to actually run the ball second half, which is like, they're actually playing back. I would have ran the ball. I would have tried it, just see what they can do. At least run the football to make the defense honest. And I think what they started to do, and I think this is when the team, and this is confident. I don't want to say arrogant, but confidence is, well, look, we've been able to do this all year, score on guys, right? Even in the second half, we've been able to come back against these guys. And so, man, to be honest, man, they already knew if we get them down, and I know defensive coordinators are just thinking, if we can just keep these guys on a certain amount of points or yards the first half, second half, now we got them. We can just play our game because we're not going to let nobody beat us deep. So that part of the game is out of it. But we're asking now to throw these short passes to guys and then, get a lot of yak yards. Well, at that moment, man, you just try too hard. Right now, all of a sudden, you try to do too much. Next thing you know, you fumble and everybody makes a mistake. And it's just a bad situation all around, man. So I think part of our confidence of thinking that we could score on anybody at any time probably did us in. And we talked about the segment earlier about Patrick going back and making the team better by just doing some, off-season studying the film. This is part of it. And so sometimes you got to think, okay, well, if we got to make adjustments that's going to be able to work to our benefit, right? So we just don't have the deep pass. We got to have, mid-range passes. We got to be able to hit the sidelines even more. So that's part of things you got to put into your arsenal. But I believe that's what it was, man. That second half adjustment, it's tough to do, man. You're already down. and then all of a sudden you just try too hard and you start doing anything and everything to try to get back in the game. Yeah. So it works against you. So that was my assessment, man, because I seen it too, and it didn't look like no adjustment was being made, but I knew that, yeah, because sometimes what you do, man, if you open up your bag of tricks early, you know, you start looking in that bag, it sucker's empty. You ain't got nothing in there, you know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, well, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
But what about that? We did that already too. So I think that's part of it. You know, it's tough. You know, look, man, I had to say this, man. We had to give Tampa some credit defensively.
I agree.
And I don't think there's enough of it, because I was just saying what Tampa did for the past 4 weeks, what they were doing. I mean, they was whooping people's tails. They weren't. And we keep forgetting on the teams that they actually beat and who they were beating going all the way to the Super Bowl.
All of them on the road.
Yes. Come on,
all
man.
on the road. Yeah.
Right. So it was just a year, man. Everything just didn't turn out the way that we wanted for us. And our worst was their best, and then that's how it turned out. So, yeah. But we'll see them again next year.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, Kenny, hey, man, really, we appreciate you coming on. We know you've been one of our like I said, you were one of our day one guys, and we really, really happy to have you, man. Cool. It's always awesome having. And I want to say this too. We've had a couple different guests come on. We've had a few come from Virginia. I didn't know he was from Virginia. I think Mike we had on a couple episodes ago. He was from Leesburg or the Northern Virginia area. It's actually kind of crazy. It's all by chance too. I don't know these guys.
It's okay. Well, that's good though. It's good. You know, getting around the country, because that's why I wanted to. I know guys kind of reach out. So how did they get in contact with you to get on the show?
They commented on YouTube and they gave me their emails. I think they gave me their emails, and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, they were, because Kenny didn't have a Twitter, which is surprising. You know, if you're a Chief fan, you gotta have a Twitter these days.
Right.
But he gave us his Twitter, he gave us his email, and that was it. The rest is history. Came on the show.
All right, cool. Well, good.
All right, well, that does it for us. We'll see you next week. We'll have Eric back. We can even ask him this question, because I think he wore 3 in college, so we can ask him that question about the single digits, if he's a fan of that or not. But yeah, to all our followers, please, look ahead. And actually, before we do go, I do want to say this. One of our comments on YouTube is actually saying they want us to do draft analysis before we get into the draft. And one thing that I'm not going to give you homework here, because I'm not your teacher, but homework for you, I would say, going into next week, is your top 5 tight ends in the draft coming up. Who are the guys that you like? And obviously, you are one of my favorite players of all time. You are the best blocking tight end of all time. Brian Baldinger, everyone says it about you. So I do want to hear your analysis as far as who's the best all-around guy. Everyone's obsessed with Kyle Pitts, and we're not going to get Kyle Pitts unless we trade up and get him. That's not a need for us. As a number 2 tight end, I'm curious to see what kind of guys that you think that are in the draft that we could get 2nd, 3rd, 4th round that we could possibly get. So your top 3 to 5 tight ends, I was saying, because people are asking about it, and you're the expert here. So
yeah, top 5. I'll give it on tight ends, and I'll have some at least some input on maybe some guys that we should be going after in the draft. So I know we got 2 picks in the 4th and the 5th round. And I actually think we're gonna win, that segment, that part of it. So, guys, I think is just gonna come in and be able to at least contribute, So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
For sure, yeah, and we'll love to have the expert analysis next week from you. And you hear that, guys? Jason's gonna give us his tight ends to look for in the draft, outside of Kyle Pitts, obviously. But yeah, so guys, subscribe and follow us on Believe Podcast Network, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course YouTube as well. And if you have any concerns, if you want to tweet at us or DM us, and if you want to be our next guest on the show, please tweet at us at ConcernsChief on Twitter. Jason, I think we did no Eric, but I think we did a pretty good job.
Did well. Yeah, man. Yeah. So
awesome, man.
Do a good job, man, working with each other. It's good.
Of course, man. Done and dashed.
Done and dashed. D&D.
Now we're done. Now we dash.